That's not a comic book. Now that's a comic book.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Comic Reviews. I'm Sid Part 2. Danny the Lizard is down there. He's not joining me today because he's not feeling well. Anyway, so this week we have for you a ridiculous amount of comic books. Oh my god, I just walked into the store this week and I was like, ooh, I want this, and I want this, and I want this. And I'd promised to pick up other things, and just everything was out, and I saw some stuff on the shelf that just looked cool, and then there's my normal books on top of it, and then there's still a trade to talk about this week. So let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and get started right away with the last book I finished reading here, Lando Calrissian number 2, The Black Guy in Star Wars number 2. This is really fun stuff. That's really all I can say about it. Like, honestly, if the movie is to be written half as well as, or if the movie has been written since they've already finished it, half as well as the stuff that's going on in the comics right now, at least in the Darth Vader and the Lando book, then I am just absolutely thrilled. Because these are the two books of them that I've read and really enjoyed. That I read the one of the issues of the Star Wars book on, I think, my first video, and that was okay. I didn't love it or anything. I think it would have helped if I could have read all the other stuff that was going on. But, I don't know. I'll probably pick up like a trade of that or something. But this on its own is great. So it is, the first issue was the heist, and this issue is the escape. And, so they have to escape from some Star Destroyers that show up. And Lando does it in one of the most satisfying ways possible. They're caught in a tractor beam. And Lando's men are ready to turn on him because they're like, what did you get us into? Because 3 Star Destroyers show up. And so they're all ready to stab him in the back and try anything else. He's like, hey, just trust me. And he steers the ship into the tractor beam, and is able to get the Star Destroyer to catch the other Star Destroyer's tractor beam. And so they pull themselves into each other and crash each other. And, oh my god, it's just such a well-written, book so far. Where's this line that just cracked me up? Because, the general or whatever that's in charge of the whole situation, him and a soldier are talking, it's like, the Imperialist, which is the name of the ship that Lando's stealing, which is the Emperor's personal ship, the Imperialist has leapt away into hyperspace, Commodore Idle. What now, sir? For me, Lieutenant? This, I think. And he, holds a gun up to his head. But for you, I hear the rebellion is hiring. And it's just I love that. It's so well done. And then there's this cool bounty hunter. I love that there's just tons of bounty hunters just roaming around the Star Wars universe. This is a lot of fun. And then it has a great cliffhanger ending, with, some Imperial guards stabbing one of Lando's cohorts. Now they have to deal with those guys, and they're on this, they call it a yacht, which I think is a really good way to describe it. So it's the Emperor's personal ship, but it's not like that's the only thing that's important about it. They're alluding to there's something else on the ship that's way more important than the ship itself or any of the valuable objects that are on it. There's something that's immeasurably valuable. And so the Emperor says to this bounty hunter that he hires, I cannot risk anyone else having that. So if you're not able to capture the ship, you have to destroy it. And so it's just, it's so good. And Sidious even has some great lines, too. Where is it at? I have a task for you. I have assigned Imperial forces, but I confess a certain lack of faith that they will succeed. My armies serve well as a hammer, but I suspect this undertaking is more suited to a needle. Ooh, it's great line there. Sidious is my favorite character from the Star Wars universe. So it's cool to see him be so tied into such a wacky story, and it's high stakes, but there's still just a level of fun in this book, which I'm loving that about it. So yeah, this going on my pull list. 2 issues in, and it's this much fun, and I'm enjoying it this much. You gotta grab it. I mean, like last issue when it ended, when you found out that what Lando stole belonged to Sidious, was like you almost felt like a wah 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 sound effect with that reveal, but in like a really exciting kind of holy shit way, and so you're getting more of that here. It's just it's so much fun. I'm in love with this book right now. Look at the smile. Look at the smile on his face. Just enjoying the hell out of that. This I like the last issue a lot more than I like this. There was something really raw to the idea of Superman fighting not corrupt police, but brutal police that were that were abusing their power. I think there's a difference there, because when I say corrupt police, there's a sense of, they're taking bribes and stuff, and that certainly is an abuse of power as well. But I just mean like guys who've become sadistic and let the power go to their heads. So this still has a bit of that, and I think they redeem it overall throughout, and certainly by the end. But it's disappointing that the guy that Superman punches, the SWAT leader that wanted to, bulldoze over a bunch of people, Superman punches him in the face at the end of the last issue, and you find out that the reason he was doing all that was because he's secretly some kind of evil alien. It works for the context of the story itself. But I was really, really hoping that we'd get some kind of, how to put this? When they were doing Superman standing up to police alongside protesters, I was really hoping that we'd get something that was much more grounded with Superman in this book right now. And that's certainly part of what's going on, I think. There's some grounding in it. Again, by the end, what we get is a sense that the police department actually really doesn't like Superman. By and large, they think he's kind of, made them seem like idiots. So we get a lot of that in this, but I don't know. I was really hoping to have it be more raw than fantasyful. And it's comic books. Of course it's fantasyful, but at the same time, I was really hoping for something just down to earth, kind of nitty gritty, and this is more just kind of. I don't want to say I'm disappointed, but it wasn't what I was hoping it was going to be, so I don't know what else really fits for that. This arc started out strong, and the second issue, I'm a little disappointed by. I'm not going to deny that. I mean, it's still good overall. I still really enjoyed it, and Superman's, inspiring a community and everything. I almost want to go back and read what was going on with Lois Lane revealing Clark Kent's identity, because I'm really curious to see where they were going with that. And here we're getting that the mayor's office is corrupt, but before that we get this whole speech one of these cops is given. I think it's a female cop. Look, I don't care what they say. I know Bringington, and he's a good cop. Cares about the city, believes in the law. Those writers knocked a tear gas can at his boys. They could have killed someone, and now the mayor's turned her back on him. Well, he did turn out to be a shadow monster. Psh, like that's any crazier than fire from his eyes, freeze breath Superman. Well, Kent's not exactly like that. Well, we have no idea what the hell Kent's like, Schwartz. He's an alien and a liar who's been pretending to be one of us for whatever weirdo reasons he might have. And yet he goes walking off scot-free. Well, it's us who are getting interrogated. And that's a cop, and she runs away when she finds out that the mayor's one of these shadow monster things. And then Superman comes in at the end, and he's going to protect her regardless. And so, that's interesting stuff. I really hope that the criticism that the last issue was getting of Superman, butting heads with the police department isn't affecting what's going on in the story, because I think that's what we need. We need the cops to be the bad guys in something. I don't think that there's anything fundamentally wrong with Superman fighting against a police department when the police department has abused their power. I think that's really strong, impactful stuff that we need from Superman. He's supposed to be this champion of the people in a lot of ways, and it's been a really long time since we've had that. So I just really hope that it doesn't drop that, because I mean, he has lines in this where he's talking about how the officers that were fighting along with the guy weren't not doing the wrong thing. It's not like, oh, well, since the guy was evil, they're forgiven. No, they're still just as responsible for, agreeing to go fight protesters who were, sitting down. The guy that they talk about, that tear gas canister getting knocked back at the police. Well, who the fuck you think shot it? So it's one of those things where it's like, it's not like it's completely abandoned what it was setting up in the last issue, but it's a little softer than I'd like. It's kind of that Winter Soldier thing where I really like the idea of the government being in the wrong and everything, and Captain America fighting against that. But at the same time, it's like, well, are they really responsible, or who was pulling the strings the whole time? So, it takes away a little bit of that oomph that the first issue had. And so I'm still enjoying this. I added it to my pull list on the strength of that first issue of this that I read with Pack. I believe that's the guy's name, right? Yeah, Pack writing it. But not gonna lie, I'm a little bit disappointed. There's certainly justification still, and it's not like what I was enjoying has been abandoned. It's just been softened a little, and I hope it hasn't been the criticism it was receiving that did that. So we'll see what happens. Bombshells #1. Oh my god, communist Supergirl fighting against the Nazis with USSR. Yeah, superhero enthusiast will be in love. This is a lot of fun, and I mean, it starts out with Kathy Kane. That's her name, right? I always forget. Is it Kathy or Cassandra? It's Kathy Kane, right? God. What's her name? Let's see. Batwoman. I know, entertaining video, right? Just look at... That's what I should rename this. Just watch Ian fucking look at the panels for a minute. No, but this is there's some actually, nice ground pushing stuff in this as well. I mean, look at that. There's Kathy Kane, and she's been a lesbian for a while, but we're actually just seeing her in a relationship, and it's set in the 40s, which kind of makes it subvert stuff even more. And there's some fun, like camp to this with, God, what's the line she has? Hey, sugar, you want to steal home? And she's at a baseball game and throws home plate at this thief. And this other guy, goes to punch her and says, you mouthy broad. She's like, you boys don't keep me busy enough. I've had plenty of free time to think these up, and I can keep going for days. And so it's set in that what was the movie Madonna was in? Damn. League of Their Own, that's it. It's set in that era where women were doing everything, not only the Rosie the Riveter factory work, but they were even out playing baseball. And so that's beautiful stuff to see. And so she's doing that, so that's where you get Batwoman from. And then when she's not physically playing batball, she's got the ears, which is neat. And it's just a lot of fun. There's a lot of alliteration, which is always enjoyable. But there's a sense of that longing for the suffrage movement to have gotten stronger than it really did. Because you look at the history of the suffrage movement, and in the late 1800s up through about the 30s, or no, not even that, up until about the beginning of World War One. It was really picking up a lot of steam, and then World War One came around, and it was like, okay, you got to put it on hold for a little bit because there's a war going on, and then it kind of sort of came back, but didn't really get moving again. And then you had the women's movement, the women's workers movement in World War II, which I think kicked it into gear again. That's a brief history of the feminist or women's suffrage movement for you. We're really glossing over literally all of the details, but yeah. So you got some interesting stuff here that's dealing with the feelings of abandonment that's gone on with that. And this is all a setup issue. It's not even, that's just the first third of the book. Isn't that amazing? And then, what, before I move on, Amanda Waller in a plane, landing on a roof in fucking Gotham, or essentially Brooklyn, basically. It's not even really a plane, it's like this weird high plane helicopter hybrid. That's neat. And so she recruits Cassandra Cain and her girlfriend to, or partner is probably a better word, to do a mission to, quote, end the war. And then we cut to a dogfight above, where else? Oh, above Batman number 10. Yes, of course. We cut to a dogfight above Themyscira with Steve Trevor, and he's talking about the Valkyries, and then the Amazons are up in the skies taking out the planes because, to quote Wonder Woman from later on in this little bit of a story, kids are dying on Themyscira because of all the fighting that's going on up above, because of all the dogfights and stuff. And Steve Trevor passes out for some reason that we don't quite get an explanation for, and lets her know about Hitler, and then there's a great tease with some kind of sea monster. Oh my god, this is great. I Esparzum will doubly, I promise you blood, I promise you gold, I promise you screaming and laughter, I promise you fire and salt and death, I promise you all that comes after. I will give you the kingdoms of flesh, my love, from crag and forest and fen. I will give you the kingdoms of men, my love, all the kingdoms of men. And then it's in another language, so I don't really know. But yeah, so there's a lot going on in this. And then we set up with communist Supergirl. Yeah. Interesting thing about the Russians in World War II. I actually really like this because it's about the Russians were the only ones that put women in the field big time. Or the Soviets, whatever you want to call it. And their plane fighting tactics were just god awful. So the Russian Air Force, to their credit, out of all the allies, had more downed Luftwaffe planes than any other air force. But they also lost more of their own planes than any other air force. And the reason for that was because they didn't have a lot of ammo. So their tactic that they taught their pilots was ram them in the air. Well, why not? It worked. It's not quite as bad as when they'd send their soldiers out to go fight the Germans. With the first guy in line would have a rifle, and then there'd be a bunch of guys behind him. And when the first guy dropped, you're supposed to pick up the rifle and keep running. And if you ran back, then they'd have their own machine gun spraying at you. So, Russian military tactics, or Soviet military tactics in World War II were brilliant. And so the scene we get where Supergirl is a so Supergirl's a pilot in this, and like her sister, it appears, we don't get a ton of exposition on it. Her sister's plane explodes in midair, and they talk about the planes being, really rickety before that, and it's very accurate. The Soviet Union at the time was one of the most underdeveloped Western countries in the world, and so when they started the war, by the time the war ended, they were very modernized, but when they started the war, it was a clusterfuck. And so when we get through this and we deal with there's this teaser. We're not really sure what's going on, but something about having superpowers seems to be like a really bad thing, and I don't know, that might have something to do with the idea of the German Superman philosophy. I don't really know. It's hard to tell, but really interesting stuff so far. Love this issue. This is everything I'm enjoying. And Wonder Woman's all over the DC universe right now, which is so much fun. She's popping up in so many books right now. That's really cool to see. Alright. Scott Snyder's Batman number 43. Big surprise, I'm not enjoying it. There's just some stuff in here. Like, I think overall I enjoy this issue more than everything else, but there's this thing that Alfred talks about that really bothers me. Let me just read this speech that Alfred makes. I'm going to talk about this cloning thing that was brought up too in a second, but let me just read this speech. Don't you see, Clark? He's talking to Superman. Don't you see, Clark? Batman died and Bruce Wayne came back. That man you saw tonight is the boy that none of us saved, who Bruce would have been, who he was meant to be. The city gave him back. This is his reward. This is his afterlife. This is the real Bruce Wayne. You've seen his mind. He can never be Batman again. Leave him. The good he's already done at the Fox Center. You should see him. He's happy. Let him live, Mr. Kent. Consign the rest to the furnace, please. And that's continuing on this metaphor about bricks being made. That just doesn't work for me. It all comes back to Cape Crusaders, or whatever happened to Cape Crusader, rather, where I think this all really boils down to, because Gaiman has that line, or no, not even Cape Crusader. This goes back to Batman R.I.P. for me. Because the woman he's dating in that, the supermodel or whatever, she has a line where it's just like, Bruce, you got to be the hero you always wanted that was never there for you as a little boy. And then that builds into Gaiman, because you have whatever happened to the Cape Crusader, where his mother says, you don't get heaven or hell, Bruce. You get to be Batman. And that's so much of it, though. That's what Batman is. He doesn't get to be happiness. He doesn't get any kind of reward for being Batman. He just gets to be what he always wanted someone to be for him. And that's one of the most poetic things about Batman. Batman doesn't get any reward out of it. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. The reality of being Batman is that you die being Batman. And so this idea that Bruce Wayne's being rewarded by not having to have dealt with the reality of being Batman anymore is just, I really don't like it. Just the fundamental nature of it bothers me there. And so and especially seeing Alfred talk about that feels like something, maybe I'll give some credit there then, that feels like something that Alfred would want for Batman, but Batman wouldn't want for himself. Like, I can see it that way. I can see maybe it's to be fair, it is Alfred saying this, and I can buy Alfred wanting that for Batman, but I cannot buy Batman wanting that for himself. That really does bug me. The idea of that does really irk me, and so that part of it I really don't like. And then it followed that like immediately followed this other thing that Alfred says. Apparently Bruce was working on a machine, and he didn't have time to finish it. It's a machine meant to ensure that there would always be a Batman, a machine that he was working on in secret when he died. It would use his DNA to grow each successive Bruce to age 27, instill in him all the original Bruce's pain, all his training, all his memories, up to the moment he decided to become Batman. Picture it. Picture an endless chain of tragedy, each version of him subjected to the same horrors. Bruce killed by Batman so that he, Batman, could be born again. An unnatural genealogy of them. Yes, Father, I shall become a bat. Spoken by Bruce to Batman, fathered by Batman, one replacing the next generation to generation. But even he, with all his genius, he never even came close to finishing it. To me, at that point, Batman is Ra's al Ghul. Batman is always determined. Batman is always ensuring that there will always be a Gotham. Or, no. Yes, that there will always be a Gotham protected by Batman. There's an episode of The Batman that I think handles the idea of that in a way much better than what is even suggested. The idea that Batman's even thinking of doing that bothers me, and I'll get to that in a second, but let me talk about this real quick. Yeah, there's an episode of The Batman that deals with Batman ensuring that Gotham will always be protected by him in some way, shape, or form, and it deals with Mr. Freeze, since he's the one that can be a villain for Batman, that Batman actually faced in the future. And so these archaeologists, dig up the Batcave, and they try their best to get the Bat computer back online to see if there are even any files on Mr. Freeze, and they can't because the technology is just too ancient because they're that far in the future at that point. But then they look on the supporters, the girders of the wall that are supporting, some of the architecture of the Batcave, and they see that it has binary, and literally etched into it, so that Batman put the raw binary of his entire computer onto the wall, onto the physical substance of the Batcave, and they're able to look at that and see, and then put the binary into their modern machines, and then have a conversation with Batman, where he gives them the method to defeat Mr. Freeze in the future. That's how Batman would carry his legacy through, in a way that doesn't pain others. That's the thing that bothers the hell out of me about this. The idea that Batman would subject anyone to what he had to go through. You see the origin of Robin in a lot of things, and Bruce Wayne is always just broken that he was there while what happened to him happened to someone else, and that's why he always felt that he had to take on these other kids or Dick Grayson, to take on Dick and that's a funny sentence, to take on Dick Grayson as a protege and teach him what it means to be Batman in that way, and so I don't mind him passing on his legacy in that way and teaching others, but the idea of him, but he never wanted anyone else to feel the pain he did. And you can make arguments about Batman needing to feel a certain drive that, Dick Grayson and Tim Drake would never feel quite the same drive that Batman always did. And I disagree with that, and I mean, certainly Terry McGinnis proves that you need some tragedy in your life to be Batman, but I don't think that it's anywhere near appropriate for Batman to enforce that upon someone else, and that really does bother me. I get that the thing is, it's supposed to be shocking and bothersome to show just how obsessed Bruce Wayne is, and I get it in that respect, but I cannot sanction it that it's something that he would actually do. That's like a War Games scenario to me. Despite what you think of War Games, I like the idea that Batman has a plan to instill himself as the kingpin of crime in Gotham City, if you will, but that he decides, no, that's just too far for me. I cannot justify doing it. It's wrong. I cannot cross that line. And the reason he'd wanted to be the kingpin was so that he could control crime and stop crimes from that side of the thing. But I like that he draws a line there and says, no, the methods I'd have to do to go there and the kind of man it would mean becoming, it's not right. And so that's why he puts that plan on the shelf. And this seems like something that would be in that realm of plans that he would consider, because he's Batman. He considers all options. But I cannot in all good conscience have Batman actually working on achieving that goal, because that immediately crosses a line to just becoming Ra's al Ghul at that point. Honestly, I don't know why he'd have that and not a Lazarus Pit. If I'm thinking on those lines anyway, but it's meant to be shocking. I just don't like the way in which it characterizes Batman. That really bothers me. The villain's kind of neat in this Mr. Seed, I think that's his name. Or no, wait, what they call him? Oh, me and not remembering things that I read just like 2 minutes ago. Oh, Mr. Bloom. There we go, Mr. Bloom. You know, he's alright. This idea of this guy that's giving like these little seeds away to people, and the seeds are then giving them superpowers. That's alright. I'm not in love with it. I don't like that he maybe killed Penguin. You know, it's a Batman villain. They all survive in the end, but to be fair, Penguin is the only one that's not lying on the ground, presumably dead in that last page, so who knows? Maybe he's good. Maybe he'll survive it. Who knows? But this Mr. Bloom character, he's okay. He's an interesting idea for a villain. So yeah, the idea that Batman would make a clone, like, the idea that Batman would pass his pain on to anyone, that anyone innocent, even if they're just a clone of himself, just, it's too far. It really does feel just completely out of character for him, and that really bothers me. Like, I've had people tell me that Scott Snyder's Batman just isn't my Batman. I just don't think that's Batman. I don't think that's anyone's Batman who would even, like, yes, I'll admit, Batman would consider doing something like that. I can see it that way, but the idea that he would actively work on it, that he wouldn't just immediately dismiss it as too far, even for him. At that point, Batman's Lex Luthor, Batman's Ra's al Ghul to me, and that just, like, there's an old issue of, like, it was a one-shot comic, I remember, and it had to do with Batman and Ra's al Ghul. It was after Batman had, defeated Ra's al Ghul by eliminating all of the Lazarus Pits on Earth, and so Ra's al Ghul died because of it. And Batman got a letter in the mail that was to be delivered to him on the occasion of Ra's al Ghul's death. And so, the letter talked about how the Lazarus Pits actually served a purpose beyond just saving Raz's life. They were a naturally occurring phenomenon in this version of the story, had nothing to do with humans making them at all. Like, Batman sealed the ones that Ra's had made, and Batman sealed the ones that were naturally occurring. Just destroyed them, sealed them off so that Ra's could never come back. And in that story, the purpose they serve is to keep the dead dead, because what started happening is zombie apocalypse in a Batman story, and so Batman had to deal with the zombie apocalypse, and the only way for him to solve it was to create a Lazarus Pit, so he does, in the Batcave. So it would have been a cool time for that to come back, even though I doubt it's ever been in canon for more than that one story, because I don't think anyone else ever touched it again. Really good story, though. I would have been okay with that coming back. I would have been okay with Batman creating a Lazarus Pit for himself, more so than I would be with this. Batman wouldn't do that either in my mind. There's certain things that I just cannot buy from the character, and that's one of them. So that's just really bothered me. So it's that level of like the Alfred thing I talked about. Alfred's speech about, being Bruce Wayne is his reward for being Batman. That bothers me, but I can at least dismiss that away. That's how Alfred feels about it. And that's how the people that love Bruce feel about it. But that's not how Bruce would feel about it. And that's not how we as readers should feel about it. I can dismiss that away if that's an in-character thing, and not actually how we should feel. But the idea that Batman would do something like that, just, it's immediately, it's 1-2, that just really bugs me. So yeah, those are my feelings on that issue. It's, the villain plot's actually kind of interesting, and it doesn't really remind me of anything else. I'm trying to think of it, like, my thing with Snyder so far has always been, oh, every story is this other story, and so far that's not what's going on here. At least nothing that's come to mind right away. Again, it might happen after it evolves a little more. I like the powers thing. That is one thing I have liked about Snyder's run is setting up the Powers Company from Batman Beyond to be this other force in Gotham that's kind of like taking over bits of Wayne Enterprises, and Gordon in the beginning of this talks about how sorry, talking a lot. Gordon in the beginning of this talks about how he can't really be Batman if he's constantly having to deal with being just a lackey or a middleman. So Batman needs to be more than that. And so he needs Bruce Wayne's help to do that. I just don't love Gordon as Batman. And also, like I said, it's very reminiscent of Batman Inc., which just bothers me. But that's very little of this issue. Gordon's in it for, let's see here, 1, 2, 3 pages, and I think that's the end of it. I don't think Gordon's in anymore. And then the rest is just Bruce Wayne related stuff. Bruce is barely in the book as well. And then the villain as well being set up for the arc. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm not loving this either. There are a lot of things about it that just aren't working for me. And I don't feel like it's just me. That's the other thing. Is like people go, oh well, it's not your Batman. Well, this isn't Batman anymore. There's just so many things about it that just don't feel like Batman. And it's not just that it's not my Batman. It's just, I think I could lay out a thing of fun. I feel like I could make a list of fundamental things that you need for Batman. I think Steve has talked about doing that before. And I think on that list, there's a couple things that are being broken here. So that really bothers me. This I just picked up because it looked really interesting, and this looks to be maybe an anthology series. And I'm really curious to see how it goes. This is from Guardian Knight Comics. It's called Sanitarium, and there's a little bit of a Tales from the Crypt kind of opening to it. Let me just read the opening. I should almost get Milan to read this for you. Milan, if you're watching, you have to read this. Write down the lines as I say them. Insanity is a disease that spreads through the mind. Like a ferocious worm, it devours our reason from within, generating twisted and deranged thoughts, making us do horrible, unspeakable acts of violence and compulsion that defy rational explanation. It moves from person to person without regard to gender, race, age, or creed, creating unthinkable results we can neither accept nor understand. We can only try to treat, or perhaps in some way comfort these poor, demented souls wandering helplessly like shadows through the warped realms of their own personal hells. My name is Dr. Stenson. Welcome to the Sanitarium. It's really got like a Tales from the Crypt feel to it, but just in like turn the creepiness dial way up and the schlock dial way down. And so we get a story about a kid who's being abused by his father, who's an alcoholic. So it's immediately like cliche as shit. But what's done with it is really interesting, where he seems to have created some kind of alternate personality. He has some kind of mental break where he sees someone else constantly, some kind of scary man that seems to be very threatening throughout the issue. But as the issue goes on, there's this reveal that the scary man ends up killing the boy's father and concerned teacher. While the boy is seemingly in a bag the whole time. And when the police show up, the boy is covered in blood, which he wasn't, just literally a panel beforehand, whatever. And then as the issue goes on, the boy's grown up in this sanitarium, and we see this final panel of here's him grown up, and here's this final panel of him with this stranger that's seemed to come to his rescue and kill his father before he could hurt him anymore. And that seems... the implication definitely seems to be that the kid did it himself, but he imagined this other force doing it for him. And so it's really just, like I said, it's got that anthology feel to it, because I don't see how you really continue this story any further, but it's got that anthology feel of Tales from the Crypt, but with the creepiness style cranked way the hell up to the point where it's not, there's no schlock or lessening humor to it. This is just straight horror. Tales from the Crypt, which I have a fondness for, at least in the show. I've never read the comics, to be fair. Tales from the Crypt, which I have a fondness for, always balanced out the horrific elements in it with kind of like a fun, silly, kind of stupid humor that made it all just easier to take. And this, nope. There's no water to help you swallow the pill. This is dry swallowing right now. Guardian Knight Comics. I'm gonna have to add this to my pull list because I love horror comics, and I love when something's just fucking dark as shit. There is no ray of light in this book. It's all just shit. There's no happy ending either. Like that. You go, oh well, the kid's not getting abused anymore. Yeah, he just killed people. So yeah, this is pretty good though. I really enjoyed it. It's not very deep. It's dealing with the idea with just being beyond saving. Some people are just, they're too far gone to do anything about. Like, the opening line pretty much says it. We can only try to treat, or perhaps in some way comfort, these poor demented, wandering helpless like lost shadows through the warped realms of their own personal hells. Some people are just too far gone. I mean, you can treat them, or maybe we can just offer them some comfort as they go through life. That's really fascinating to me. I think this is a really, really great first issue for a book. I just picked this up because, title caught my eye, cover caught my eye. I highly recommend it. It's really good, even if you know the ending. I don't think that really diminishes it at all for you. Good story. If you don't like horror, you won't like it. It really is just horrific stuff, and my fingerprints are getting all over the back cover, so I'm gonna stop. Grant Morrison's 18 Days. If you want to add this to your pull list, you cannot say, hey, please add 18 Days to my pull list, kind comic book store clerk. You have to say, please add Grant Morrison's 18 Days to my pull list, because you know what? It's not called 18 Days in any official record keeping. It's called Grant Morrison's 18 Days. So if you try to look it up by the number 1 and the number 8, or spell out 18, you won't have any luck adding it to your pull list. But anyway, so we're getting more of this Indian mythology stuff, and it's really interesting. I didn't do what I suggested doing, which is going back and reading the first issue first and getting back to this. The biggest problem I'm having now is I don't know enough of the names, so I need to go back to that first issue and just really study the names so I know all the characters. And the other problem is I haven't met all the characters yet, so it's going to be hard to remember all the names that they're talking about. And it's not just because I don't know them yet. I mean, the names are in a foreign language, so they don't immediately place in my head. You tell me a character's name is John Smith, or a character's name is, Green Lantern, or a character's called Green Lantern, and they have a particular look to them. that's easier for me to remember because I know what those words are. I've used John and Smith and Green and Lantern in my life before, so it's going to be harder for me to remember names using words that I've never heard of. I know Krishna. That's it. Krishna's in the book. Yeah, Krishna right there and there. So Krishna's there, and so that's placed, and I mean, you know, dude's blue. That's easier to do. But so difficulties of reading it aside, I'm quite enjoying this. You have those, you know, drums before the war thing going on in this, and there's this sense of a guy who's walking across a field, and he's delivering into or fulfilling this prophecy of the old gods, as they call it. A superior warrior, humble enough to seek the blessings of his elders, may sometimes be gifted secrets from the enemy. And so you get the sense that that's what he's doing right before this epic battle that they're setting up. And that's really interesting. And I don't know quite where it's going yet. I don't really know everything about what's going on in this book yet, but it's damn fascinating. Really cool stuff. I don't know how much there is to say. There's a lot of setup, and it looks like there's a lot of like medieval style politics here, but with mythology added to it. With that feudalistic politics. There we go. That's a better word than medieval. Because you have people that are sworn to help this one guy, even if they don't like him, even if they really don't want to side with him, they've made an oath, or they have some kind of responsibility to act in this certain way and support this particular person in whatever they happen to be doing. And so you have that sense of, well, I don't want to be doing this, but I am. This is where I stand, so I don't want to be here, but here I am. And so they're kind of, you know, playing tricks, and everyone seems to have their own agenda, and they seem to be working behind the scenes to try to outmaneuver one another. And you have this guy with this archery bow. You have this archer who seems to be some kind of super warrior, as they call him, and he's refusing to fight until a guy that he's fighting alongside is dead. There's no love lost between that old man and I. As long as he is in command of the Kurnuva armies, I will not fight. Bishada has never respected you as a warrior or as a man, so why not join us and fight on the side of the law instead? Ha, your reputation as a puppeteer is well earned. It's true that Bashman means nothing to me, but my loyalty is to Doridama. So you have this sense of everyone's, like, kind of that Game of Thrones thing. Everyone might have sworn an oath or have this certain mentality, but they're very particular about it. Everything's really dependent on what you said you would do, literally on your word. Not only what you've promised, but literally what you said, the physical words that you spoke. So that's really interesting. And so, like, this guy, yeah, I will fight with you, but I did not promise to fight with you while he's on the battlefield, so I will not pick up arms until he is dead. And that's really interesting stuff here. And so it's some of the political stuff that I'm gravitating toward most right now. The mythic stuff, I mean, this really is just a big issue of people talking. No one, literally, the beginning of the issue here, the guy's throwing down his shield and armor and weapons. So literally, there's no action in this. This is all talking. Everyone's throwing down their weapons. They don't want to fight yet. And there's just a lot of discussion going on right now. So if you're looking for, big Lord of the Rings action scenes or whatever, that's not what you're going to get. At least not yet. I mean, it's a comic book. It doesn't have to have a budget. I wouldn't be surprised if we got an entire issue where there's just a fight scene. That'd be fucking cool. War elephants rock. But yeah. Right now we're just getting a lot of talking. It's all politics right now, and we're just getting to learn who the characters in this are. So really interesting stuff, though. Enjoyable. I recommend picking it up. First issue was only $1. This is $3, but that's still pretty good. Okay, Doctor Who, 10th Doctor, number 14. Maybe this book comes out bi-weekly. I feel like I talk about it in quick succession, and then it goes quite a while till I get it back. So this is finally starting to get kind of interesting, but I'm still not loving this story arc. This whole issue is just about the Egyptian gods are aliens, and I don't know, that's cute once or twice, but after a while I start getting tired of that. They do actually kind of make a joke about that. Hold on, let me see if I can find it, because I legitimately thought that was hilarious. Oh, where's it at? It's near the beginning. See, Ian, flip through pages. Okay, here we go. So, John Boy, let me get this straight. The alien tech you mentioned, all that Stargate stuff, the ancient Egyptian gods were actually super advanced aliens from a planet called Physter Osiris. Yes. Okay, that's just goofy. I love it. How about ancient Chinese gods? Were they aliens too? No, creatures from another dimension. That's probably a reference to another Doctor Who story I don't know of off the top of my head, but that's a fun line, and it shows, yeah, this is kind of a cliche story at this point. Ancient humans worship something as deities, and it turns out that they're aliens. I don't know. It's not doing it for me. I've loved this book so far, but this last story arc, and it's been one of the longer story arcs too, has really been dragging. Tennant, the writing on Tennant is still great. He's still a lot of fun to read and stuff, and it's great to have the 10th Doctor back. But I was really hoping that we could have 10th Doctor style with 11th Doctor quality. I love Tennant to death, but he had a lot of bad episodes, and that's what this feels like. This feels like a really long, bad episode. So yeah, I don't know. I'm reading it. You know what else would be cool along with this 10th Doctor stuff is we got Torchwood Comics. Captain Jack Harkness needs his own book. Or just Captain Jack Harkness farting around space would be cool. I mean, you'd have to have him sleep with a different alien every week, but, you know. Yeah, this just hasn't been doing it for me. I haven't been a big fan of this issue. The first couple were okay. It was setting stuff up. But it's just kind of dragging. It's been going on for too long. I haven't been liking this story arc. It's nothing against the story arc. It's just kind of meh. I don't want to say meh. I feel like I say meh too much. It's thoroughly existent. The story arc that is currently going on truly does exist, and I can say that much for it. Otherwise, it's just been kind of boring. I just haven't cared for it. I don't have a ton to say about this issue, though. Green Lantern Star Trek, or Star Trek Green Lantern, The Spectrum War, issue number 2, and the speed has not dropped! This is moving, guys. This is great. It looks like next issue we're gonna finally pump the brakes a little bit, but I'm okay with that. So, Hal's dealing with the Klingon guy, General General Chang, and it is the eye patch one from not Final Frontier, Undiscovered Country. It is the eye patch mofo from Undiscovered Country. And so it's Kirk and company dealing with the rings and Hal Jordan and stuff, and everything's just moving as fast as it possibly can. Chekhov is figuring out how to use the blue ring, and I think it's kind of neat. He's got the blue costume on and the Starfleet symbol, the Enterprise Starfleet symbol, I should say. So that's really neat. And there's a lot of reference to the to the continuity of the movies here. And so Chang got the yellow ring. Garon. I don't know that species off the top of my head. These lizardy looking guys. One of them gets the red ring, and I'm slightly disappointed because Mofo just looks like Atrocitus. At least in the panel we see of him. So yeah, Hal indicates that he's alerted whenever one of the other rings attaches onto anyone. And so he's alerted when God, I can't remember this dude's name. Chang gets the yellow ring, and he's alerted when this lizard guy gets the red ring. And then a Romulan ends up getting the orange ring, which I think is really interesting. So I'm curious to see what they're going to do with that. We're 2 issues into a 6-issue story arc, and I think there's enough here to set up like a 12-issue story arc, or maybe more, because all right, so we have 3 cores, blue, pink, or blue, violet, and indigo are on the Enterprise. Chang's got the yellow one, and he goes and kills off the Klingon High Council, which is really friggin' cool. And then Sinestro shows up at the end, which is awesome stinger. But so we have 3 on the Enterprise, and then 1 off and then 3 off in other directions, with other major Star Trek, or 2 at least major Star Trek villains, and then the third group I just don't know yet. I've only seen Enterprise and Next Generation, or not Enterprise. I've only seen TOS and Next Generation, so maybe that's another species I just don't know about yet. But yeah, so we're dealing with all this other stuff going on, and like I said, it's moving really fast already. So I think next issue they're gonna pump the brakes and tell us exactly what's going on now. It's hard to tell though. It's moving like lightning, and that's really cool, and it's really fun to see. And the Enterprise is shooting off blue hope light so that Green Lantern can fight Chang and stuff. So that's really neat. I'm just really curious because it seems like, I don't know, maybe issue 3 is going to be where we come down and it's like, okay, here's what we got to do. And to solve the problem, we got to get the rings back from all these other people, because I'm sure the Enterprise crew will give Hal the rings back when it's time for him to leave. But first, we need to get them back, and so maybe each issue is going to be getting a ring back from each of the cores, the red, orange, and yellow rings back. And that's really cool. That'd be a fun setup for it. And then the final issue, they'll get the last ring back, and Hal will get to go home. It's interesting to see this quick scene we get with Hal and Kirk discussing who they are. It's just Hal doesn't know what Starfleet is, and Kirk doesn't know what Green Lanterns are. So this is where we're starting to get the introduction of, we're in different universes and timelines and stuff. Like I said, I was really hoping they'd have the balls to just say, fuck it, who cares if it makes any sense. It's a time travel story. That'd have been pretty neat. But yeah, so it's interesting stuff here. I like McCoy gets the indigo ring. I can buy that. I legitimately can buy that. Chekhov with the blue ring, and Feora with the violet ring. It's a little less, but I can legitimately buy McCoy getting the indigo ring. His costume doesn't, they're kind of doing their own thing with the art styles in this. I don't love the art style. Hal Jordan kind of sort of looks bald in this panel. I don't love the art in this. It looks better from a distance, but when it's close-ups, it's kind of weird. Or maybe it's just the way that artist is doing Hal Jordan's haircut. The costume though, it's weird because it's this weird blend of the Starfleet uniform and the actual and the classic Green Lantern costume or whatever the people happen to be wearing at the time that they get the ring, I guess. And that's okay. It's just it would make more sense if they because even the Red Lantern, he's kind of sort of wearing the same thing by the end of it. Or whenever he gets the ring, he's kind of sort of wearing the same thing. So I guess that's just the style they're going for. It's the symbol just kind of latches on to whatever you happen to be wearing in this version, and unless you, I guess, make a full outfit for yourself. That's okay. I'm just a little I just think it's a little weird. I guess I'd prefer something that's more like the comic book stuff, where Sinestro's Court always has the points down the sides and stuff. So we'll see what goes on with that, though. But yeah, this is a really fun issue. This so far has been a really fun crossover event, and I'm really excited to see where it keeps on going. But so far, it's been a roller coaster. Hold on tight, people. All right, so that, ladies and gentlemen, was a big ass stack of comics, and so I'm gonna start a new take for the trade talk this week. All right, here we are with Captain America: The Man Out of Time, which has a very clever cover on it. For those that don't get it, it's every president since and including FDR. So that's pretty clever. That's all the presidents he missed, including Obama's on there. So this is fairly new, I guess. I'm gonna take the dust jacket off just so I don't have it go all over the place. Never like it when it's just black on the inside like that. But so what this is it's a retelling of Captain America's, I guess you could call it his origin story, because that's what it's kind of become for him. Even though, Captain America has a different origin with the whole injected with the super soldier serum and all that stuff. That's like his A origin story, and then there's his B origin story, where he goes to fight or he's frozen in time, and then wakes up years later and ends up fighting the Avengers, or fighting with the Avengers. And really, it's only about an issue that the World War II stuff lasts, and in it we set up this idea of what does Captain America want? What does Steve Rogers want after he gets out of the Air Force, or after the war's over? And then he's like, seriously, it's only just a couple pages. Let's see here. That's it. That's all the World War II stuff. And then it's just right into the Avengers stuff. But what's really interesting about it is a retelling of the original story. It's not like they just took the beat of, okay, Captain America was frozen in ice, and then he wakes up. No, they retell the whole story and just modernize it and make it dark and gritty. No, but they just modernize the original story, and it's a big tribute to that in a lot of ways. Like, Iron Man's freaking face mask drives me crazy in this Jack Kirby style. I love Jack Kirby to death, but come on, that looks bad. You good? He's distracting. He's trying to escape. Anyway, so yeah, I don't like Iron Man's faceplate in the old comic, but I really, really don't like it in the new art. It doesn't work at all. It looks terrible. So like that'll be my first big complaint about this book. I really like this book, don't get me wrong, but my major complaint for it is... One second. So, like, you were complaining about Captain America, and that made me mad. So now I came out here to fight you. So this is like a really good book, but in trying to keep so dead on with the original issue, it feels really weird sometimes. And like the art is the one thing I'm like, okay, if you're gonna change anything, change some of the art styles to make it look more modernized, and they certainly do that. But they keep, like, the design of the costume. They just do it with modern style. And, it does not work. It really, really doesn't work. Especially with Iron Man. Thor hasn't really changed that much. But Iron Man is just, like, sore thumb sticks out awfully. But then there's some other stuff. And, like, I like the idea of keeping the beat for beat of the original story. Because, like, Cap's just kind of immersed in this world that is weird. Like, obviously, Captain America in the future, it's always going to be weird. There's that great shot in the end of the first Captain America movie where they get all their product placements in when he goes to Times Square, and he's just blown away by it. It's like, oh my god, this is so crazy. But then we get this story, and like it's even weirder because it's not like he's in, you know, a movie Marvel universe where by and large things are still fairly normal in the world. It's just superheroes. No, he's in this weird universe that have had like alien invasions and all this crazy stuff happen, and it's this crazy world that he's in. So that it works on that level to keep the beat for beat of Silver Age story with the Avengers being turned into statues and stuff. But at the same time, it is a little distracting when because like what's weird about it is like here's the alien that is in the story, and like I'm not that's responsible for turning the Avengers into stone. And then if I go to the original issue, I did like that they gave you the original issue here. I go to the original issue, and here's the alien that turned them into stone, and he's all green and looks kind of like Medusa head and stuff. And so they changed the art style on him, but they didn't on Iron Man. And they changed the character design on him, but not on Iron Man. So I just don't understand that. I think that's kind of silly to do. If you're gonna change it, keep it consistent, because the writer does make it work. Who wrote this? Wade. Wade makes the whole crazy Silver Age aspect of it all work, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, the art suffers for that. And so it gets a little distracting from time to time, particularly when Iron Man's on screen. Or on panel screen, whatever. But more so, this is a story about Captain America being literally a man out of time, just how everything has changed and how it's parts of it are everything he's looked forward to, but other parts of it are just so depressing and sad, and you know, you get the whole we've lost our way thing here. And you get that in two different ways. Tony Stark shows Cap around the what museum do they say it is? The Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum. So Tony Stark shows him around this museum and shows him all these great moments from their history post World War II, and he shows him like the Captain America wing. I've often said I want to go to school in the Marvel universe, so I could learn about what Captain America did in World War II. Shows him the Captain America wing, where all these other soldiers that like took up the mantle after his disappearance fought, blah blah blah. And so you get the positive side of history from Tony Stark. But then, and so after Cap sees what he's left behind as a legacy, he decides to go and talk with the president to hand in his resignation. And the president tells him, doesn't accept, and Cap isn't allowed to go back in time. Because he has to think about the safety of reality of the timeline and everything. And so Cap is forced to stay in the future and becomes a member of the Avengers and everything. But he does so kind of reluctantly. And while he's fighting with the Avengers, he learns about, or he's able to get in contact with one of his old commanding officers who's in a nursing home now. And he spends a lot of time with it, and here's where we get the other side of American history, from someone who was there when we were, quote, great. And now we're like, oh yeah, it was all good, and like, you know, Cap saw the I Have a Dream speech, and his commanding officer has this line about, oh yeah, I was there when it happened, it was amazing, it changed a nation. Did Stark tell you what happened to the guy who gave it? So you get this really pessimistic view of what the country has become since Captain America, since World War II. And it's there's such this great sense of it. Cap's talking with the nurse that was taking care of his commanding officer after he'd passed, and she's like, yeah, I'm gonna have to find a new job, unfortunately. because of immigration laws and stuff. And it's like, is it really so bad where you're from? And she goes, there is family. We hadn't much money, but the countryside is beautiful, and I am loved there. I do miss it. And yet you're willing to scrub toilets to stay here. She says, it is America. So there's still that sense of American dream that Steve Rogers is, he's blonde, he's in the army, shut up. That Steve Rogers is having trouble grappling with. And so he's wondering if that dream is still alive, if that's still a part of this new America that he's found himself in. And it's literally like 2 pages later that we get Kang showing up. And Kang is a villain that's related to time travel and all this stuff, and he's able to easily defeat the Avengers because they're overconfident. But Cap, he won't go down. He comes in to fight harder. And Kang can tell that he's not from this era, so he sends him back to the 40s, right after the end of the war. And that's really interesting stuff. And now he has to deal with, like, now that he's been to the future, now he has to see what the past is like. And he doesn't get to have those rose-colored glasses of, oh yeah, we were great then. We had our problems, but obviously we worked through them. It's like, no, these were really big problems, and despite some of the things that have changed in the future, like for the worse, it's still a better world because of the problems that have been solved. And so, history is the story of progress in a lot of ways. So you have Cap sitting down with this man and his son at a baseball game, and they're black, and so they're not allowed to really sit in the stands, but so they're on the steps. And he encourages this little kid that loves baseball to, become a Dodger. Thank you for the lick, Danny. He encourages this little kid who loves baseball to become a Dodger, and his father tells him, that's never going to happen. Don't let white men, make fun of you like that, son. There's some really interesting stuff with the coloring in this that shows how modern Cap has become in such a short time in the future. A lot of people are colored in this, kind of muted tone or straight black and white, which is really interesting. But as it goes on, we get this sense of Cap trying everything he can, and Cap becoming disillusioned with the past the same way he was with the future. Look at that panel there. Is talking to this guy who he knew in the war about how good things are now. And he looks over, and there's this guy slapping a waitress's ass. And that just shows you how much progress has occurred in ways that we don't give proper acknowledgement to. Like, we always look at the past like it was so perfect back then, but there has been some major strides that we forget about when we do that. And, you don't want a time like Louis C.K. has this really great joke. He says, black people can't fuck around with time machines. And that's really true. Like, if you're not a white man, you can't fuck around with the time machine, because if you go too far back, it's like, fucking hang him or shut that woman up. You don't get to really screw around with a time machine like that. And so when you travel in time, things change drastically, and it's easy to forget about the strides that have been made through history. And Cap's he learns about those strides and he's impressed by those strides, but then he gets kind of cynical to it all, and he realizes, yeah, this future isn't any better. I just want to go home. I just want to be back where I was. And then when he gets back where he was, it's like, actually, no, this isn't as great as I might have thought it was. And to leave, I actually had to leave friends. Alright, camera died again. Sorry, folks. I'm gonna get a new camera. Fuck it. So anyway, so Cap realizes that in order to leave and go back to the past where he wanted to be this whole book, he realizes that he had to leave the Avengers in the middle of a fight, and that's not something he's okay with. And it's just a really great story, because a problem I've always had with Captain America is his head's always been stuck in the past. He's always been this, this voice from the past of, oh, we were better back then, we're history's greatest generation in a lot of ways. And that's how his character is always has often been portrayed, as far as I've seen. And it's great to see someone write Captain America dealing with, no, actually, we had a lot of fucking problems. And I might not love the future. The future might be missing some of the things that made us great, but it's not completely destroyed. It's not without its merits. It's not without its success stories, and I think that's important for Cap to realize. Kang comes back to fight the Avengers because he's heard that they're the greatest heroes in history, and I think that's really telling. I like that Kang is a part of it for that reason. And like I said, Kang's a really interesting villain to use with Captain America because of the time travel aspect, and I think that was utilized really, really well. One of the other problems I had with the book, though, is some of the art's really wacky. There's this one panel that I'll put a picture up of right now, and it's just like, it is the most awkward Captain America face I've ever seen. It just looks so not good. So, like, there's stuff like that occasionally where the art just looks really freaky, and I already talked about how bad I think Iron Man looks with that old Jack Kirby style armor. Jack Kirby, you love him to death, but yeah, that looked terrible. But otherwise, it is a really great story. It's a really touching Captain America story, and there's not a lot to complain about. It's really great character arc for him where he gets to realize, the past is the past, and I refuse to be just stuck in the past like that. So I was really happy to have been able to read through this, and I find it very, very enjoyable book. I asked Steve which Captain America book I should grab that was on sale at the comic book store, and told him to grab this one because it is the best, and I gotta thank Steve for that, because this is a really, really great book. But ultimately, I'm really satisfied with this story, with Captain America's character. It takes him to a really interesting place, and I was really happy to have read this, and I thought it's not only a clever story, it's also a really good story. You get those remakes, essentially, of comic books every so often. They end up just being kind of disappointing or kind of like blasé, but this is like a retelling, and then it builds upon that, and it's really good throughout. I loved this story. It was just a lot of fun to read. Really great character stuff for Captain America. And so if you haven't picked it up, do. It's definitely worth it because it's a really good book. Anyway, if you have any graphic novels or trade paperbacks that you would like me to pick up and review, you can go ahead and leave comments with suggestions down in the comments below, and I'll do my best to see if I can get a hold of them. One per person, to be fair. But if I like your suggestion and then you suggest other stuff, I may pick it up. If you have books that are coming out month to month, week to week even, leave that in the comments below, and I'll pick those up as well if I see them on the stands. Until next time, everyone, thank you for listening. This has been Sid Part 2 with this week's comic reviews, the longest video yet, I guarantee it. Alright, bye!